You lived a complete life before the age of 3. You opened your eyes for the first time, heard your mother's voice, tasted real food, took your first unsteady steps, and spoke your first word. Yet you remember none of it. Not a single moment. Most people think your brain was simply too young to record anything. They're wrong. Your baby's brain wasn't failing to capture those moments. It was capturing all of them. Something inside you actively destroyed those memories. And the most unsettling part? It's still happening inside every one of us right now. For the longest time, we believed the answer was simple. A baby's brain is still developing. It simply isn't equipped to save memories yet. That explanation feels comforting. It matches what we see when we look at a newborn. But science has shown it's only half true. In the 1980s, psychologist Carolyn Rovey Collier at Rutgers University tied a ribbon from a baby's ankle to a colorful mobile hanging above the crib. Very quickly, the infants learned that their own movement could make the world above them dance. Days later, she brought the same babies back. Even 2-month-olds immediately started kicking again. 6-month-olds remembered for weeks. So the baby brain is not blank. It is learning, linking, and remembering. For a mind that supposedly remembered nothing, that was a problem. The real mystery was no longer whether babies could remember. They could. The mystery was why those memories disappeared. Here's the part that changes everything. Your baby's brain wasn't too weak to hold memories. It wasn't failing. It was too busy building you. In those first few years, your hippocampus was producing new neurons at an astonishing rate, a process called neurogenesis. These fresh cells were rapidly helping to wire the complex circuits you would later depend on for learning, emotion, and thought. Without this explosive growth, you could never have become the conscious, reflective person you are today. But every new connection came with a price. As these new neurons integrated into the existing network, they didn't simply add on. They reshaped and disrupted the fragile patterns that held your earliest experiences. The memories of your very first days were quietly overwritten, like a drawing erased to make room for a more complex one. In 2014, neuroscientists Sheena Jocelyn and Paul Franklin tested this idea. When they increased neurogenesis in adult mice, the mice forgot things they had just learned. When they slowed it down in infant mice, those babies kept their early memories far longer. The conclusion was startling. Your infant brain wasn't broken. It wasn't immature or incapable. It was doing something far more important than remembering. It was becoming you. But even that wasn't the whole story. Because to turn raw experiences into memories you can actually recall years later, the kind where you see yourself as the main character, your brain needs something even more important. It needs a sense of you. Before roughly 18 to 24 months old, most infants don't yet recognize themselves as a separate person. The classic mirror test shows this clearly. Babies under 18 months often treat the reflection like another child. They don't reach for the mark on their own face. Only after 18 months do they touch their own nose. That moment closely tracks with the beginning of what we call autobiographical memory. Without a stable sense of self, experiences have no owner. And then there's language. Developmental psychologist Catherine Nelson showed that language doesn't just describe memories, it gives them structure. Before you could speak, your experiences existed only as raw sensations. Colors, sounds, emotions, warmth. Without words to organize them, those impressions had nowhere stable to attach. They simply faded. Without a self, memory has no owner. Without language, memory has no shape. And here's what makes it even more fascinating. The age of your first memory actually changes depending on the culture you grew up in. In Western cultures, where parents frequently narrate their children's experiences, earliest memories tend to start around age 3.5. In cultures that emphasize personal storytelling even more, memories can reach back even earlier. That means memory is not only biological, it is also social. It is shaped at the dinner table, in the car, during bedtime stories, and in the way parents ask questions and repeat the past back to a child. Do you remember the beach? Do you remember Grandma's house? Do you remember how scared you were and how brave you became? Little by little, those conversations teach the child how to build a life story. Not just what happened, but what it meant. Your earliest memories are not just stored inside your brain. They are partly built by the people who helped you name them. Now let's bring this home to you right now. Look at an old photo of yourself as a baby or toddler. That child staring back at you feels strangely distant, almost like a different person. And in a very real sense, they were. Your brain didn't just forget those early years. It actively dismantled them to make room for the person you are today. Every new neuron, every new connection, every new ability, language, self-awareness, long-term memory, came at the quiet cost of erasing the fragile records of your earliest self. This is why so many of us feel a strange melancholy when we look at childhood photos. We're not just looking at younger versions of ourselves. We're looking at someone whose mind was literally disassembled and rebuilt into who we are now. The baby in the photo isn't gone. They were the raw material. You are the final draft. And that, perhaps, is the most haunting truth of all. To become who you are, you first had to lose who you were. So here is the uncomfortable question. If your first self could disappear so completely, if the brain that held those years was rewired beyond recognition, how permanent is the self you feel like today? Was that baby really you? Or was it someone else? A temporary version who lived in your body, felt everything, and then quietly disappeared so that you could exist? And if that is true, how much of the person you are right now is also temporary? The scariest part isn't that you can't remember being a baby. It's realizing that one day, the you reading these words right now may also become someone you no longer remember. So the next time you look at an old baby photo of yourself, don't just smile and scroll past. Pause for a moment. Look into those eyes and remember this. That child is not gone. They are the foundation you are still standing on. Every version of you that came before quietly made room so this version could exist. That is the strange, beautiful, and slightly heartbreaking truth of being human. We are not fixed stories. We are constantly rewriting ourselves, sometimes by remembering, sometimes by forgetting. So here is my question for you tonight. When you look at photos of yourself as a child, do you feel a strange distance, like you're looking at someone else entirely? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Thank you for sitting with me by this fire tonight.